Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Talk of the League. And it is a Boxing Day special. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas and got everything that they ever desired and ate whatever they ever desired. It was lovely for me. Back to work today, so no rest for the wicked. But there we are. That's the life of a 24/7 recovery operation. But there we go. And we have tonight with us co-owner of the channel as well as myself, Jonathan. How are you, sir?
Yeah, all good, Nathan, mate. Yeah, looking forward to this in one way, but dreading it in another, having to talk about another abysmal Manchester United performance. But look, it's Christmas. We won't be too negative. It's the most wonderful time of the year, apparently. So we'll try and keep that mentality going for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We will do our absolute best. We will obviously touch on United. Another load of stories coming out of the Premier League today from some really great results. But firstly, Naomi, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is over there. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good to be back and excited to have a chat with you folks, regardless of the results, but always good to be back with the community. So I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Firstly, before we move on, we might as well do something Christmassy. What was everyone's favourite Christmas present? We might as well touch on it.
Let's,
Ooh, I got a Nintendo Switch because I'm an overgrown child for Christmas. So that was a
That's a
nice
great
gift.
present.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it distracted me very well there this evening. So yeah, that was the best present I got. So happy days.
Amazing.
oh,
And Naomi, what about you?
I got a couple. My roommate gave me the Eras Tour official book, and I'm a Swiftie, so that was really special. And my mom got me a record player. I collect
Amazing.
records, but didn't have a player, so it's been a nice Christmas. Not gonna lie.
Oh, awesome. I
Yeah.
got the usual stuff, pajamas, clothes. Just it's more about the kids nowadays, isn't it? That's what I keep telling myself. Although I've got some money towards a new golf putter because I'm terrible on the putting, and I think a new club will do that some good. So there we go. Right, we'll jump straight into it. Like I say, a lot of good big results happening today. So we shall start. I think. Well, shall we get it out of the way first and go to the 5:30 kickoff at the Molineux? And let's just get it out of the way, shall we? Wolverhampton Wanderers 2, United nil. And I think you've been building up to this, Jonathan. So why don't you just release it and get it on? Go for it.
I've actually calmed down remarkably well in the last half hour. So yeah, look, I think even at this point, it's not even anger anymore. It's just pure disappointment.
Mm.
I missed the first half. Thankfully, looking at the XG stats at halftime, I was like, I'm glad I missed that first half. But the second half, yeah, it was abysmal, and it's the same story again. Another goal conceded from a set piece. Um, how you can see two goals in the space of a week directly from a corner is beyond me. So yeah, it begs the question. I'm sure they're working hard. I'm sure the coaches are working hard on the training field, but these players are letting another manager down. This time, they're not even waiting for the usual 18 months to 2 year spell to down tools. They're doing it in the space of 10 matches. So look, it's painful right now. It's really really painful. I'm just hoping that it's necessary pain for long term gain, because it's certainly not a question of sacking the manager. That's not going to happen. Every Man United fan knows it's not the manager. It's really exposed the players for both their attitudes and their limitations as football players. I've said for a long time on different shows that these players are the most unfit and technically lacking group of footballers I've ever seen put on jerseys for any club in Europe. I can't understand how these guys pass medicals when they return back from pre-season, because it's just astonishing how little these guys can run. Um, but yeah, look, I just really don't know what to say anymore, and it actually is getting worrying now, the actual reality of relegation, because people will hear the words Man United relegation and they think it's not a possibility. I think the Leeds team that went down in 2003, 2004, one or the other, I think that Leeds team was better than this Man United team. And that worries me, because I'm looking at these results like 3-0 at home to Bournemouth, 2-0 away at Wolves team that had won, I think, was it one league match before they appointed their new manager all season. Like it's really, really, really bad stuff. And our next three matches, I think, are Newcastle, Arsenal, and Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken. So this is going to get very ugly. And look, I've stood by my point that I think Amram has got to stick to his 3-5-2, because if another manager caves on their system to suit these players and it's these players winning, but at the same time, we need points as well, because we can't get relegated, and it's a real possibility right now.
Yeah, you say it's a real possibility of relegation. We joked the other day about doing a whole show on Man United and a relegation battle. And if you look at it from 2 points of view, you could say we're 6 points off Fulham. Oh no, 6 points off Villa, sorry, in ninth. Or you can look at it as, oh, actually, 7 points off the bottom three. So it's not ideal. It's not great. Naomi, what was your overall thoughts of the game in general? I mean, it was a very difficult watch, especially second half. You know, there was a lot of the first half that we looked quite comfortable. Obviously, Fernandez getting that really silly yellow card in the first half, and you just knew full well it was going to end in tears. So yeah, what was your overall thoughts of the game?
Yeah, definitely. The first half, I was just glad that we didn't concede at that point. I was pretty afraid of the Wolves game. I'm not gonna lie, I just don't think we have a good track record with Wolves, and continues tonight. So wasn't too exciting first half. Um, I was glad at that point that we didn't concede. Looked kind of boring overall. And then the second half, just losing Bruno so early at the 47th minute, that's embarrassing. I thought it was a little bit of a harsh decision to give him the second yellow. Like you could have just done a free kick or something and brushed it under the rug. You didn't really have to give a second yellow for that decision. But it's Man United. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Um, yeah, and then even though it was offside, like Wolves had a shot on target right after that, which went in. It was just offside. So again, you're just mentally uh, being weaker at that point. And then, yeah, they eventually get a goal, and then they get a second goal at the 98th minute. That was absolutely horrific for me. I would have just rather it ended 1-0. The second goal was absolutely embarrassing. I hated it. I turned off the TV after it went in. Like, just totally horrible. And yeah, there were some substitutions that didn't really make sense to me. Honestly, I don't know why you would play Anthony for another minute in his life. He's done nothing for us the last year and a half. Um, but yeah, just a lot to unpack, but disappointing anyway.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Vicky in the chat, really lovely to see you, Vicky. She made a great question, Jonathan. Obviously, now with a red card, who does comes on in Bruno's place for that game? Because like we've already said, we're not like blessed with quality anywhere at the moment. You could probably mention two players at a push that you would happily keep at the minute. But yeah, who would you put on in his replacement? And if you would you change the setup at that top side of the pitch just to vacate for someone to come in?
Um, I think probably Rashford is the most logical one to come in there, into the 10 for Bruno. I would have normally said Mason Mount, but look, he's gone so fragile now. He looks like his football career is at the end already at 26 years of age. He's just so
Yeah,
injury
it's such
prone.
a shame.
And I think he's, ironically enough, I think he's perfect for this system in the sense of how much he runs and his technical ability. But look, that's just someone we're going to have to plan without. But yeah, I think Rashford is the logical one, and unfortunately for Amarim, the more and the longer these results go on, it weakens his battle with Rashford. That's kind of been going on now since the Manchester derby. That victory in the Manchester derby really strengthened his hand, but the last week or 10 days or so now has really weakened that hand, and it begs the question as to what's going on behind the scenes. I know you and the guys were talking about that last week, but yeah, look, I mean, he just doesn't have the options there. I think that the natural one now is just to bring Rashford in there, and but at the same time, if he feels there's a logical reason for leaving him out, and he's got to make a stand, and he's got to pick someone else, and maybe it's time we start looking at the academy players, because these guys on the field are so bad. I mean, I don't know how much longer we can look at Dallo at left back. He's completely unbalanced in our attack. He was doing it under Ten Hag. Now he's doing it under Amorim. I mean, how long before someone like Harry Amas gets a run in there? I know he's young. I know he's raw, but I mean, we look at how bad this is right now. Like, how much worse can it get by throwing a young guy in there? We saw what he did in pre-season. He's a naturally left-footed player, so he's going to automatically bring a balance to the team that's going to benefit the more senior players that are more central. So look, I I think we're getting to a point now where he's going to have to start looking at some of the academy players and giving them some game time, because there is just absolutely nothing coming out of those senior players at the moment. There's nothing to be positive. I mean, players like Kobe Manu, who was just such a shining light last year for us all in what was another tough season. He just hasn't been the same player this year, and not to single him out. He's only 19, but yeah, I really don't know. Maybe the answer is to push Kobe a bit further forward into the 10 and have a double pivot in there of Casemiro. But Ugarte is suspended as well, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't he? He's got a fifth yellow card, so he's going to be missing as well. So maybe Ericsson comes in there. I don't know. It's just it seems that whoever is put in, they're all produced in the same draw performances, and yeah, it's just very, very hard to watch right now.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly who's to blame. It's obviously it's just there's such a look. We should give some credit because I'm going to give Wolves a bit of credit today because they were. It wasn't a case of that United were terrible, which we were, but it was also that Wolves were very, very good, Naomi, and especially Mateus Cunha. He has been an unbelievable revelation for Wolves, getting them out of sticky situations. And today it was just another example of just how good that player is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with Wolves, they're a pretty good team, I would say, but they have their days when they play with us. They have even better days for some reason. I did not want to make Wolves fans Christmas wishes come true. That's not why we are a club. And there's a little bit of a trend. I try to avoid listening to the commentary on Premier League matches, but every time I do, somehow we're breaking somebody's record, right? Maybe it's like a club that hasn't won at Old Trafford in like 100 years or something. So we're always breaking some sort of record. Um,
Yeah.
and today it was just like Wolves players were having a great time, blowing kisses at their fans, and getting a last minute second goal. Like, what is this? So it's just pretty frustrating to see all of that in action.
Yeah, it was bad from our end, but very well done to Wolves. They thoroughly deserved it. As this is Talk of the League and not Talk United, let's focus on some of the other abysmal performances in the Premier League today. Let's go directly to Chelsea. They had a woeful performance at home away to Fulham, their nearest rivals, 1.6 miles as the crow flies. If you know London, that takes about 2.5 hours to drive. Yeah, Chelsea won another Cole Palmer goal with Fulham scoring two in the last 15 minutes, Jonathan. Fulham aren't a side to write off very easily. They have made some really good performances, and Marco Silva's got some really good sort of tactical knowledge in getting results out of games this year, particularly.
Yeah, he's always been a good manager, and I think he was a manager that Everton got rid of a bit quick. He's proven that at Fulham now the last couple of seasons how talented he is, and they're a perfect example of a team that don't really have so much superstars. It's not a sort of team you'd pick out one player and go, God, he's going to get picked off in the summer. It's kind of a squad of very good players who work very well under a set system, and they know exactly what their jobs are. Um, I fancy Chelsea to beat them today, especially when they went 1-0 up. But I think it just shows how unprepared this Chelsea team are for a title tilt. To just lack that experience. I think their time will come. They've got a lot of very good players there, none more so than Cole Palmer, who you just mentioned there, who's looking like one of the biggest mistakes Man City are ever going to make. But yeah, look, Fulham looked every bit worthy of their victory, and it shouldn't be too surprising. They got a good point at Anfield there a couple of weeks ago as well. So they're well used to punching above their weight. And look, the way this Premier League season is panning out with everyone taking points off everyone, you wouldn't put a past and getting one of those European spots or even pushing on for a Champions League spot at this point. So yeah, look, I mean, it's all pointing to that dreaded Liverpool 20th league title coming in, isn't it? Everything seems to be going that way for them at the moment. But yeah, look, I think Chelsea have had a good few weeks, but this is inevitably going to happen. They're just a bit young and a bit inexperienced. But credit to Fulham and credit to Marco Silva.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, we talk about Fulham. Obviously, they're currently sitting in eighth on the same points total as Man City and Villa around them. So they would have taken that at a heartbeat at the beginning of the season. There is a player I want to mention to you, Naomi, and I know you're quite a fan of his, but another woeful performance today from one of your favourites, Jadon Sancho. He had a real. I mean, I was watching the game on the Amazon Prime thing, and obviously every now and again they'd go over to it. And for me, he just didn't give anything again. And I can't really see a lot of Chelsea fans, especially Evan, who's a regular every now and then on the channel, seems to rave about him. I know you like him on a personal level, but like he just really woeful today, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like we've been holding our breath and waiting for the other shoe to drop with Chelsea and that whole Cole Palmer, Jadon Sancho link up. I mean, obviously, we know since we followed his career and their game, we are aware of kind of literally just waiting for the other shoe to drop because they seem to be doing well for a few games, but you always wonder like, oh, did you actually figure out the problem or did you find a band-aid solution? And clearly they found a band-aid solution. Um, so I don't know. Hopefully, hope to see it get better because definitely they had a few good games together, and he had a few good games for Chelsea. The fans love him, and I love that they love him honestly. So yeah, I hope to see him do better and kind of not break their trust, so that they can maintain a good relationship because he gets out really fast as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I'm also hoping that if a money deal has been agreed, it will be interesting to see if the money goes up or down depending on how he performs. Because I don't think we were going to expect very much from it, Jonathan. But if we were, obviously you wanted to play well in that respect, just to get us some more pounds and pennies on the end of that deal.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it was already agreed, wasn't it, between 20 and 25 million, I think, and I think we did well to negotiate a fee even that high because I don't think it's a secret that he's a bit of a trouble player, Sancho. And I don't mean that in a really bad way. I just think he could have probably people who are ill advising him, and he just I think he's another victim, or he was another victim of a very unbalanced changing room. Like if you imagine a Sancho in a changing room with someone like Roy Keane and Gary Neville and these kind of guys that are solid professionals under a proper solid management and coaching structure, you'd see different sides to these players. But look, that's indicative of the modern game as well. It's not just that Man United. Man United is particularly messy at the minute. These players are just a victim of the kind of world that we live in today. But yeah, look, I mean, if that fee is agreed for Jadon Sancho, which I think it is, then I don't really care that he's struggling because we're guaranteed to get that money anyway. If it was a case that it was performance related and we were going to get more based on goals and assists, then happy days. But yeah, look, he's never really hit the heights that he did at Dortmund, and he doesn't look like he's going to hit those heights ever again, bar something really drastically changed at Chelsea. I mean, he's not a young kid anymore. What is he? He must be about 24 now, I think he is. He's not very young anymore. So, like, I mean, he's got to be entering his prime now, and it doesn't look like he's going to ever hit that consistent run of form that he hit when he was at Dortmund. So, yeah, look, I mean, he's a bit of an enigma, Jadon Sancho, and I don't wish him all the best.
Brilliant. They're currently sitting 4 points behind Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool are currently playing at the moment. We'll try and keep you up to date with the score as much as we can. Still currently Liverpool 0, Leicester 1. But yeah, currently sitting 4 points behind Liverpool, Chelsea. Would you still consider Naomi if they're in a title challenge? Considering they're 35 to 39 Liverpool.
Um, yeah, I would still consider them in the challenge, honestly. Um, I think I think they had a difficult time this week, but I would consider them part of the challenge. And again, I think we expected to kind of see like some flaky behavior as we were getting closer to the season ending. Well, it's not ending yet, but as we get further in the season, we did expect them to see some weaker points in their game. So I think that time is showing, and you're kind of filtering out actual contenders from folks who kind of just got lucky over the season. Yeah, this time I would consider them, but we'll have to see as we get closer, and wouldn't be surprised if we saw more performances like this one.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think it's very difficult to rule them out completely, considering there's only 4 points between them, and that they're able to have such massive squads to be able to swap every other week for the cup competitions. It's really handy, and obviously we should very quickly touch on Jonathan. Obviously, Mikhailo Mudryk, obviously in the last couple of weeks, in a bit of a sticky situation, should we say? Obviously, supplying with an A sample that's come back as positive for a performance-enhancing drug. Still waiting the results, as far as I'm aware, on the B sample, are we? But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, under suspension at the minute.
Yeah, it just kind of compounds his time at Chelsea, really, doesn't it? That overinflated price that they paid just to snap him away from Arsenal was probably the best thing that could have happened to Arsenal, really. He just never looked like a player that was worth 80 odd million pounds. I mean, we talk about Anthony and the waste of money that Manchester United paid on him, but I mean, I think Mikhail Mudryk was just as overinflated in terms of price. He's worked under a few managers now, and it's never looked like really changing for him. Look, from a personal point of view, I feel sorry for him because I'm sure it's not a case of him going out and just taking a drug. A lot of these guys are advised now by different medics and doctors, and I suppose one doctor's opinion might say that this is safe. It's not going to be traceable, and then it is traceable, and the guy's career could be over just like that because we saw how quickly it ended for Paul Pogba, albeit he was a bit older when he was found guilty of taking performance enhancing drugs. But we saw even at Man United with Rio Ferdinand when he just missed the test back all those years ago, how much it nearly unravelled his career as well. And if Ferguson hadn't been there at the time, it could have ruined his career as well. So as a Man United fan looking at Chelsea, I don't really care. But from a personal point of view, I don't like to think of the psychological damage it could be doing for the young chap, and having moved from Ukraine at such a young age as well, and we all know what's happening over in his country as well. So look, I mean, yeah, from a personal point of view, I do feel somewhat sorry for him if it is a genuine mistake. If it's something he did deliberately and knew it was illegal, then I don't feel any sympathy for him. But look, only time will tell with that, and I'm sure there'll be a long appeal process as well to follow that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was obviously having a great weekend because he was over at the boxing, obviously watching Usyk beat Fury. But yeah, like you say, you can't imagine what it's doing to his confidence levels playing football. Speaking of confidence levels, let's talk about the uprising of Newcastle United. They absolutely trounced Villa at home 3-0. Uh, I don't know if you saw it, Naomi, but you must be keeping a bit of a close eye on Newcastle's performances at the minute, considering they're one of the teams that might be taking one of our spots.
Yeah, I did catch the highlights, and they seem to be having a great time. Villa is a strong team. I'm always nervous when we face them, so just great to see that for them. And yeah,
Yeah, Jonathan, what do you think? I'm just going to bring Jay in very quickly as well because he seems to have made his way. Evening, mate.
Hello there. I'm so sorry for the lateness.
That's all right, mate. We'll come to you very shortly, checking on you. But
No
yeah,
problem, man. No problem.
what do you make of the uprising of Newcastle at the moment, Jonathan? Obviously, another really good performance at home today.
Yeah, they've had a really up and down season since that year. They've made the Champions League. They've kind of been a very hard team to follow and make out. They look like they were making great progress under the new ownership, and Eddie Howe was kind of punching above their weight with them. Then they fell off a cliff, and then they come with a great result, and they come with a poor result. They're I suppose it typifies Newcastle over the last 70 years. It's why they haven't won a trophy in so long. They're just a very, very inconsistent team who've had some very, very good players over the years, and they still have some very good players now. I mean, you'd snap your hand off for probably 90% of that Newcastle squad to come in at Man United at the minute. So, yeah, look, they're a team, they kind of shout louder than they should, really. They think they're better than what they actually are. But at the same time, they're a hard team to dislike because they do have a very loyal fan base who stuck by their team, been relegated a couple of times as well, and look, that can't be easy. They filled out St James's Park every single season, every single week in the championship. So look, they deserve credit for that. And yeah, look, they're a team I don't have a lot of hatred for, dislike for. They play some good football as well. They play football the right way. So yeah, look, I mean, again, they could be a team that benefit from the very topsy-turvy nature of the results this season, and you couldn't rule them out for even staking a claim for one of those top 4 spots, because Tottenham look very inconsistent as well, and we certainly aren't going to be anywhere near them. So there's definitely opening gaps there for them if they want it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the sort of vast differences that Champions League football can make. Obviously, Villa doing pretty well actually in the Champions League, but struggling a little bit. Struggling a little bit in the league this year, and not really putting in some consistent form together. And obviously, the one opportunity that John Duran gets to actually start a game, a really, really, I put it down to lack of awareness, but also it looked a bit of a soft red card. You can see from both angles. Yes, it looked a bit malice in the way he went down on the back of the player with a second stamp. Also, it did look a little bit accidental, but either way, you can imagine. What do you think, Jay, on Villa's performances this year so far, obviously with the Champions League?
I mean, how can you not love Henry? Like, it's just, as soon as they announce that they've signed him, oh, sorry, the camera's not on. As soon as they announced that they've signed him, it was like they're going to do bits, man. And like, if Henry at that time at Arsenal, that would be them by now. Like, imagine what he's like. That's with what we call a lesser Big Six team, shall we say? Like you wouldn't necessarily think Aston Villa Champions League team, but if he had control of a big club, I generally think he's going up and up and up. But what he's done for that whole team, the morale, even the youth players, the players that are unheard of, shall we say, he's just fantastic. I just love him as a coach. I think he's one of the best Premier League coaches there is at the moment.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. What do you think, Jonathan? Obviously, if they were having a bit more of a steady season, you could probably put him up there in sort of like we said last season, like manager of the season territory. But he seems like one of those managers that's sort of unsackable for Villa at the minute.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, look, I mean, I think Villa would be foolish to sack him. I think he's done absolute wonders since Gerrard was sacked there and he was brought in. He's a very, very good manager. He's a manager I wouldn't have had any problem coming into Manchester United at some point in the past. So, yeah, look, I agree with you. I think Arsenal got rid of him far too soon. They did to him kind of similar to what we did to Moyes. They both followed two of the greatest managers in our respective clubs' histories, and they kind of fell foul to that. So, look, he hasn't done too bad since he's left Arsenal. And look, I think he'll turn it around. He's an experienced manager. He won't be panicking. It's like you said, Nathan. They're just falling a bit victim of playing 2 and 3 games a week, which is unusual for Villa. So, they just need to work on building their squad, and look, I think they'll be okay. They might not get Champions League this season, but they're certainly enjoying the journey they're on in the Champions League at the moment, and they won't really give a toss with the Premier League at the minute.
No, couldn't agree more. We'll very quickly. There was a few sort of dull results. We'll very quickly touch on Spurs once again losing to Nottingham Forest. Naomi, obviously, Ange Postecoglou very much stuck to his ways and very much arrogant and stubborn in his ways, and just again suffering another defeat away from home. What are your thoughts on Spurs' very, very inconsistent form this year?
Yeah, poor Spurs. Don't really expect anything for them really in the long run. But it was great to see Nottingham Forest kind of batter them. I saw Anthony Elanga made some contributions to the win, which was always great to see. I like that guy. But yeah, it's been a tough season for Spurs. Last few games have been pretty tough for them as well. They never win anything, so I don't really have any expectations for them, to be honest.
Completely fair enough. Yeah, it's quite difficult, Jay, to pinpoint the sort of lack of consistency, but it just seems to clearly be down to Ange's ways, just not really wanting to change at all.
Yeah, which, I mean, from a perspective of, I don't know why my camera's not on there. Sorry, from a perspective of a manager per se, from a perspective of the owner of the club, you brought a manager in to do because you like what he did at the club before. Yeah, that's like a fact. So when you bring him in, you don't want him to go, okay, I'll change my strategy to fit your players. You want him to carry on his strategies that made you buy him for the club. So I agree with what he's doing in the sense of it, but at the same point, I don't think he's got the players that he that he wants to do, or that he needs to do that. The same as a few managers in the Premier League at the moment, but they're sticking to their guns and they're not sort of bowing down to the Premier League and how you have to play. It's sort of changing it up, like what Pep done when he come into the Prem. Sort of he changed, or when he come onto that light, he changed the way of football play. So I think other managers now are trying to get out of that Pep light and sort of make their own, which I completely, I 100% I'm back. And at Spurs, I think he's one of the best managers that they've had. But it's just the inconsistency that they've had as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. It's very difficult, Jonathan, because obviously they get so much stick for not winning anything. But when they have opportunities to win things and win games quite comfortably, the stubbornness of Ange really does let them down. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, no, I do, and I agree with Jay in terms of like a manager's got to stick to his principles. You can't consistently adapt based on the squad of players that you have. I said the same thing about Ten Hag, and I said the same thing about Amorim. You've got to stand by the principles that got you the job in the first place. But at the same time, you've got to be flexible too. I think Ange has played some of the best football we've seen in the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. When Spurs are on song, there's very few teams in Europe that you'd rather watch. They are a joy to behold in full flight. But you can't play like that for 38 games of Premier League season because you're playing 19 different opponents. And we saw for years, even when United had Ronaldo, Berbatov, Rooney, Tevez, Carrick, Scholes, all the creme de la creme of players. There was games when Fergie went away from home and they weren't playing swashbuckling football. It was backs against the wall to eke out a point, and no more so when you went to Stamford Bridge or Anfield. So you've got to be flexible. The best managers are flexible. It's only the likes of Guardiola that we've seen play this absolute loose playing football for 99% of matches and being as successful as he is. And that's partly down to the fact that he had an unlimited checkbook when he came in there, and if 6 months went by and something wasn't working, then he could just buy a replacement. It was that simple. But other clubs don't have those luxuries with PSR and the budget's behind them. So look, I mean, you look at Spurs and you think, yeah, they should be winning something, but adaptability is required. Ange has to lose that stubborn side that says, I'm playing this style of football and that's that. That's no problem. You can play like that for 60-70% of the season, but you're going to have to adapt for the other 30. Otherwise, you're never going to end that trophy there.
Yeah, it all comes down to you have to have a plan B. If you're playing, if you're going up against Liverpool, for example, they tried their arts out, Spurs, but what is the point when it comes to, what was it? I can't remember what it was now, 6-3, 6-4, whatever it was.
Yeah, 6-3, yeah.
So in that respect, if you're trying to impress the neutrals, which obviously we're all happy with, you obviously as a neutral you want to see good football, and it is good football. But as a Spurs fan, you can imagine it's really tiresome just to be ahead in games and then just throw it away because you just don't really want to change any tactics whatsoever. But like I say, go on, Jay.
Sorry, Nathan. See what you said about you've always got to have a plan B. See, I did agree with that, but nowadays I think there's a plan C. I think everyone has to have a plan C. Like a plan A, obviously you have to have a backup plan, but I think you have to have a backup for that backup as well, because especially in the Premier League, it's so quick. Like we've seen it. We've been winning 3-0, and then suddenly it's 3-3, and it's like, mate, that's plan B out the window. Now what's plan C? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you have to have a third plan, I think. I don't think two plans are any good in the Premier League these days.
No, I completely agree. You have to be able to adapt to every situation that's happening on the pitch. You take, I don't know, Eric Ten Hag losing 7-0 to Liverpool. He had every plan under the window completely smashed out because he wasn't anticipating going down that far. And you take, I don't know, beating City at the weekend, a couple of weekends ago. We were 1-0 down, managed to get a penalty, and then you move on to plan B, just push the goals and push the defence. And then you end up getting a cheeky winner at the end. You have to be able, the good managers have multiple plans. I completely agree with you. But there is such a thing as just, if you stick with your two plans as a principle, which is what I'm saying, Ange doesn't have any rule apart from plan A, or just make plan A better. And if plan A is not working, right, let's make plan A better. But that's just not going to work if you want to try and win trophies. I don't know if you agree, Naomi. You have to be able to adapt to every situation.
Yeah, definitely. And the first thing I thought about was just, with the number of injuries you get, because you see us having a okay lineup, like starting 11, and then what is it, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 40 minutes in, some of your best players are injured, and then you have to make a substitution, but then you're back at square one. So yeah, definitely you need multiple backup plans, and yeah, that's I think relevant for United as much as every other club in the league, honestly speaking. And we've seen the consequences of not having a strong backup plan or two backup plans, as Jay would put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We'll very quickly just touch, well, we won't even touch on these results. West Ham getting a 1-0 win over Southampton today. New manager bounce did not come into play at St Mary's, but another good result for West Ham, slowly building out a bit of form. We're not going to talk about the Bournemouth Palace game, 0-0 ball draw. We will touch on the much enjoyed demise of Manchester City once again. I know it comes as no surprise to City fans that we will still take joy out of the fact that they're drawing and dropping points even after United lost. It still fills us with great joy that there was a silver lining from today. So actually, I'll throw it straight back to you, Naomi, if that's okay. It is still quite enjoyable to see. I know. To be fair, we when we started this channel, we said we had unbiased and no agendas. But I think a lot of Premier League fans can agree that it is quite entertaining to see City lose or drop points at home.
Yeah, especially with how cocky they were last season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just have a great time. I think it was on another podcast, but someone said like, "Oh, United fans, you guys shouldn't celebrate, City's loss as much, considering like where you are in the league or whatever." I don't care. It's the holiday season, and I consider it holiday blessings. It's a great time. I go online, I watch all the memes, I have fun, read the comments, I indulge the whole thing, like just have a great time at it. Um, and there's been so many memes nowadays with like Pep and Sir Alex Ferguson, and it's just funny, man. It's a good time to laugh at City. And no disrespect to the fans, y'all are welcome here. But yeah,
Yeah, it is quite great to watch, Jonathan. And I think as football fans, not just United fans, but we've been dying to see Pep Guardiola in this position to see what he's really made of. He's never had this sort of animosity and this sort of pressure on his back to really pull and claw wins out.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now we're
And
at that point. Go on, Naomi.
yeah, I'll just add to that because last season, I think it was, and the season before that, a lot of people who have watched football for a long period of time, they mentioned that the City squad is just filled with certain players who can make a difference, but without them, you wouldn't be a strong team. And also, they attributed their success at the time to just how much they've been able to spend more than everyone else. Um, and honestly, it's just a little surprising to see those conversations materialize so soon. They had just won the treble, but it just everyone knew that at their core they weren't as an A-list football team, and I think we're just seeing the reflections of that right now. I didn't see we would see it so soon, but Christmas came early, I guess.
Yeah, go on, Jonathan. Have you got anything to add to Naomi's points there?
Yeah, look, I mean, as you said, particularly on this show, it's talk of the league, so we are somewhat neutral. I mean, and as Naomi said, that we welcome all fans onto the channel, including Man City fans. But I think the reason why every Premier League fan is unified in their hatred of Man City is because of the elephant in the room that's hanging around. That's the 115 charges, and you know,
It's 130 now, I heard. Sorry.
no, you're all right, mate. Yeah, look, I mean, there's something not right there. This goes beyond Rodri damaging his knee and the whole game plan going out the window. Man City have adapted before. Pep is a good enough manager to adapt in certain ways. There's something not right there. 1 win in 13 for a team with that many good players, regardless of the injuries. Like even Man United last year with the injuries we had, we weren't this bad. We found ways of getting wins. If it was any other manager at a club of that size, they'd be sacked by now. It's just purely down to the fact he's achieved so much at the club that he hasn't been sacked. Um, I think there's something coming. I think the players know there's something coming. You can see the people behind the scenes jumping ship. We've seen Barada going. The director of football, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce, he's walking as well. So there's something not right. I was shocked when Pep extended his contract. To be honest, I really thought he'd part ways at the end of the season. I would say he's regretting that choice now, because it's an age in City squad, and I said this to a lot of my friends over the years now that Man City, Pep was always good at selling players when they didn't want to be there anymore, and that's fair enough. That's how you keep the dressing room on side. But players want to be there, get rid of them. But they didn't really replace the players that they were selling for the last few years. I mean, the likes of Ferran Torres and Leroy Sané, just to name a few, were sold in their pomp. Julian Alvarez then last summer, these guys were in their pomp and they were sold and they weren't really replaced. And they had players like De Bruyne then who pulled them out of the fire so many times. But he's proven the last couple of years now that the injuries are catching up on him. And it's just overall, it's an aging squad. And if you cut out the supply to Erling Haaland, you just nullify Man City. And teams have figured it out now. And yeah, look, we were all looking forward to seeing this happen to Pep because of all the comparisons to Sir Alex Ferguson over the years. And yeah, look, he hasn't been able to buy his way out of this problem yet because it's happened in between two transfer windows. I think even if they buy players in January, it's not going to rectify the problem because players aren't going to settle that quickly. And I don't think the quality of players are available that Manchester City needs. So I think this could go on for a while longer yet. And yeah, I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, again, we should give some credit. Everton were terrific today, Jay. Iliman Ndiaye, once again, an unbelievable performance and a great goal taken by him, Joe.
Yeah. Well, I'll be real. I only see some of the highlights and sort of read what happened in that game. I didn't actually see the goals. But from what I've read, Everton did deserve that. City were quite lucky to get the draw, from what I've read as well at certain points. But I mean, not that I'm sort of like some magical guy or something, but the end of last season, we was all doing predictions for the top five, and I didn't predict Man City in my top five, and everyone called me delusional, crazy, and this and that. But I just knew what was coming with this court cases, and it's sort of going to have an effect on the people above, which is going to have an effect on the people below them, and then so forth, so forth. It's like a dominoes effect, so it's only going to get worse for them, I think. But Everton, I think they found a new sort of lease of life the way they've been playing the last couple of games. I'm not going to take nothing away from them, obviously. But yeah, I just generally see City not doing too great.
Yeah, and also, Jonathan, it's vital for Everton to stay up this year. Obviously, moving into their new ground next year, for them to stay up would be absolutely massive because obviously being relegated and then ended up in a brand new stadium in the Championship would not be ideal financially, would it?
No, and I think by all accounts, if Everton had have got relegated, I know they're not out of the woods yet, but I think there's going to be three worse teams than them to go down this season. If they'd have gotten relegated, they could have been facing down the financial barrel that Leeds were facing down when they got relegated about 20 odd years ago. That's how bad their debt was, and like you said, the new stadium on the horizon would have been a disaster. So, yeah, look, I think they'll do enough to stay up. They're a team I used to have a lot of time for. Not so much these days, purely down to the fact they treated David Moyes like shit when he left the club and moved to Manchester United, and I didn't like that. I felt like he'd done everything he could at Everton, and he deserved that chance at a big job. And I thought that the way they treated him when he left was a bit abysmal, to be honest with you. And I've never really forgiven them for that. So I used to always have a soft spot for Everton, not so much anymore. And I couldn't really be arsed if they get relegated or stay up, to be honest with you. But yeah, like you said, mate, if they do go down, they're in big bother. Even with the new owners coming in, I think they've got more debt than we do, which is crazy. Yeah, look, I think they will stay up. But yeah, look, it's still a dodgy situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Everton. I quite like them. Obviously, they're the better half of Merseyside, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But from a neutral and like a supporter point of view, you want to see the best stadiums in the Premier League, and obviously seeing if Everton get relegated, it would be a massive shame to see that stadium in the Championship. Not that the Championship doesn't deserve great stadiums, because it is a great league, but it's very difficult to imagine a stadium like that in the Championship. We'll touch on. I was just going to say we'll touch on Liverpool very quickly, but they've just equalised. Cody Gakpo in the 45 plus 1 minute, so they are 1-1. We obviously, as you can see from the bio, we were going to talk about is it their title to lose, but now it's just hit half time, so it's 1-1 half time. Naomi, what are your thoughts on Liverpool? Are we likely to see the 20th league title for Liverpool this year?
I can't watch that, guys. I literally can't watch that. I have not been watching football long enough to watch like Liverpool raise the cup. That would literally give me a headache. I can't watch that. I already watched City do that. Like anyone else can take it. They're a strong contender, obviously we know that, but it just would not. We don't need that in our life right now. I don't want to see it personally. But yeah, they're strong. They're in there. I was hoping to catch the end of tonight's match after this podcast. So hopefully it will not be a win for them. And yeah, just I just can't stand them winning it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, obviously, as United fans, it's difficult to see Liverpool doing well, but we also want to see Ruud van Nistelrooy do well, and obviously they're now 1-1, obviously going ahead early on in the game. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Leicester this year, Jay? Because obviously there's a lot of people predicting they're just going to go straight back down. The same three teams that came up will go straight back down. But what are your thoughts?
Nah, generally, I mean, yeah, the way they was heading before they sacked, I can't think of who it was. They sacked before, my mind's gone blank. But when they had him, they was just going downhill, and you could see it wasn't working. I think Ruud's come in. He hasn't won every game, but he's playing a different style of football for them. If he sticks to it, if they allow him to stick to it, I can see good things happening. It might not happen overnight. It might. I do believe they will stay up. I don't believe Leicester are a championship team. The same as Everton. I really don't see Everton being a championship team. I'd always see them being Premier League. But yeah, if they allow Ruud to do what he's doing, I mean, we see what Ruud had when he had us for the 4 games or whatever it was he had us for. So we see what sort of potential he could do with our players, let alone with a side like Leicester's, who's a lesser team, shall we say, than the likes of the Man Uniteds and the Arsenals and the Cities and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it'd be really good to see what he does in the transfer market, if he brings anyone in, if he lets anyone go, if anyone's sort of under his radar. And, yeah, I do believe they'll stay up.
No, I mean, it would be great to see them stay up. Like you say, they're part of recent Premier League history, so why not? Yeah, Jonathan, so obviously, Arne Slot, first season in charge. Do you think they missed Klopp? I mean, really?
Yeah, I think they'll prove to miss Klopp. I don't think I'm not. It's not sour grapes. It's just purely looking at it as a football fan. Liverpool have been the best team in the Premier League this year. There's no doubt about that. They deserve to be where they are, but I don't think they're as good as what the table suggests. I think they're sitting on 39 points at the minute. Before tonight's game, I would put them in around the 29, 30 point mark. When Liverpool won the league title during COVID in the 19 and 20 season, they were miles above everyone. They were tearing teams apart. They were just a ferocious team in their prime. This team has been good, but not great. There's a few results that could have gone either way. They've gotten a few dodgy penalty decisions. So they're definitely the best team in the league right now. And if the league ended right now, they'd absolutely deserve to win the Premier League title. They'll probably go on to win it anyway. And look, it hurts me to say it, but they will deserve to win it currently the way they're playing. But no, I think they will still prove to miss Klopp. I don't think Slot is as good as what he thinks he is at the moment. He cuts a very arrogant figure on the sideline at the minute, and I don't think he's earned those stripes just yet. You got to look at that situation very closely with Van Dijk, Salah, and Alexander Arnold as well, because I don't like the guy, but I can tell you something for nothing. Mo Salah is irreplaceable. You can buy whoever you want in the summer. You're not replacing that guy. He's just a generational player. We saw it with Man United and Ronaldo. I understand the Glazers had a big say in that because we couldn't reinvest the money. That was a different debate. But you don't replace these guys. They're generational talents. It pains me to see him at a team like Liverpool, but he's one of the greatest attacking players that's ever played in the Premier League, no matter what way you look at it. And if he does go away in the summer and move to Saudi Arabia and a huge contract, then it's going to be a very different Liverpool team we see next year. There's no doubt about that. I think Liverpool fans could be yearning for Jurgen Klopp in about a year's time.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if that yearning does come along, depending on how they get on for the rest of the year. Yeah, they currently sit in 40 points, currently drawing, obviously, but they have a game in hand still on 17, Chelsea behind them on 35, but have played 18 games. So obviously, if they win that game in hand, they'll be 8 points clear. Yeah, we'll have a quick look forward to tomorrow's games. Couple of games tomorrow. Obviously, Brighton, Brentford. Quick thoughts on that, Naomi, if any at all. Brighton, Brentford tomorrow at the Amex. Any quick thoughts on that? Really?
Not too much. I'm gonna be luckily I'm one of the few folks who got a few days vacation from work for the holiday, so I'm excited to watch as much football as I can. I was actually just looking at the table and realized Liverpool's first game in 2025 is going to be us. So I'm going to do a little prayer for us because we're going to
Yeah.
need it. Yeah, I'm just excited to catch as many games as I can. So I'll probably be tuning into that tomorrow.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Brighton, Jay? Obviously, Fabian Hertzler's come in, doing a decent job, but just struggling a little bit in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually quite a fan of Brentford. I actually like Thomas Frank. I think he's a character. I think he's a Premier League character for sure. You never quite know what he's gonna do on a day, but what he does is somehow magical in that sense of it. Like what he's done for Brentford is just unbelievable. So I'm actually quite a fan of his style of play. But I don't know, Brighton they're very unpredictable as well. And I like Danny Welbeck. I like how he's revitalised himself there.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
just not really too sure about what the outcome's going to be, but I know it's going to be a very, very either a very boring game or a high scoring game.
Yeah, I'll throw that straight to you, Jonathan. What do you expect from that game? Obviously, 10th versus 12th, only 2 points separate them in the table. Like Jay said, Thomas Frank, great manager. Fabian Hertzler, young, exciting manager to watch. Should be an interesting game.
Yeah, that's the word for it. I think interesting. I think Brentford have been abysmal away from home this season, but their home record is phenomenal. I know you said it's at the Amex, so it would point towards a Brighton win. Last year, I liked watching Brighton because I was on Evan Ferguson watch as an Irish fan and seeing how well he was doing. He seems to have fallen off a bit of a cliff this year, so I haven't had too much reason to watch Brighton. But yeah, look, it's great to see Danny Welbeck still doing it in his mid-30s. Such a technically wonderful footballer, and yeah, he seems to be getting better with age. So yeah, look, happy for him. But I would think a Brighton win tomorrow.
Brighton win, no problem. We'll look forward to that. And very quickly, let's talk about Arsenal's trip Arsenal at home, Ipswich's trip to the Emirates. Ipswich, little bit of a bogey team, not really sure what you're going to get out of them. Currently sitting 19th on 12 points. An unlikely win tomorrow will take them up to 18th. What are you expecting from them tomorrow, Jay? Obviously, Kieran McKenna again, seems like one of those managers that seems a little bit unsackable. Obviously, they weren't anticipating going up to the Premier League so early. But
Yeah.
what are you expecting from Kieran McKenna's side tomorrow against Arsenal?
I'm expecting excitement, actually, to be fair, from Ipswich. They seem to do bits when they're on the road. Like, not like as in winning games all the time and like this and that, but they seem to like do exciting stuff. It's very unpredictable sometimes as well. So, but like no credit against Arsenal. They have an amazing squad. So it's going to be hard to break them down. But yeah, I can't see them sacking Kieran. Like he's, as you said, he's unsackable in that sense of it. He's whether they go down, I think they still keep him because they know he's good for Championship as well. So, like, it's a win-win situation if they go down or if they stay up in that sense of it, for me.
Yeah, Naomi, have you got any thoughts on that? Obviously, Mikel Arteta, obviously in charge at Arsenal, having a bit of a rocky situation at the minute, but still not too far off the pace. What are you anticipating from Arsenal going into 2025?
Yeah, I expect them to get stronger. Not an Arsenal fan, obviously, but I feel like they've kind of been doing better than their previous seasons, or just how generally they are. They don't win anything when it matters. But I'm definitely seeing an improvement in their game. I don't personally fancy their manager, but they seem to, so that's always good. But yeah, I'm expecting a win for them against Ipswich. Um, I just think they have the better hand in that game, and I expect them to get stronger.
Yeah, and Jonathan, any thoughts on what we can expect from if there is a title challenge from Arsenal coming into 2025?
Yeah, they've been very unpredictable this season, and I had them tipped as like Premier League champions this year. I've been very disappointed with them. You just don't know what you're going to get. It could be a 7-0 win for Arsenal tomorrow. It could be a 1-1 draw. It's just they're just that unpredictable at the minute. But I think Arteta, he's probably at a bit of a precipice at the minute. I mean, he's got to win something to back up that FA Cup he won in his first season with the previous manager's squad. He hasn't really won anything with this squad, so the pressure's going to come on him eventually. A lot of money has been thrown behind him, so he's got to come up with the goods eventually. Apart from just like putting up a challenge every year, he's got to get over the line in one of the cup competitions or something. Something has to be backed up there. But I would expect an Arsenal win tomorrow, but you just never know. If Ipswich could come there. They've already won at Spurs, so they could nick an unlikely win there tomorrow. You wouldn't rule it out.
No, absolutely. It's nice to see a little bit of difference at the top of the table at the minute. Obviously, without the City dominance, you really just can't see what teams are going to step up to the plate. Obviously, Liverpool absolutely dominating at the moment, but it would be nice to just see a little bit more of a challenge at the top this year. Right, guys, we're nearly at the hour, so I think all that's best to say now is say thank you so much for joining us tonight. Obviously, that was a look at today's Boxing Day special on Talk of the League. We're going to be organising a few more shows coming up into the new year, so keep an eye out on our socials. And if you want to follow any of us, you can. Absolutely, you can. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, guys, please like and subscribe, get in contact with us. If anyone actually wants to join the channel, anyone from Man United fans, any Premier League club, absolutely contact any of the owners on the channel. If you go to our Twitter page, you'll find our names at the top on the pinned tweet. Just drop us a DM and absolutely we'll have a conversation about getting more people involved in the channel. But yeah, anything you want to plug, Jonathan?
No, I think you nailed it there, Nathan. Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to welcoming more people to the channel in the new year. So yeah, absolutely.
And Naomi, if we want to find you, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on X, HRH_Naomi. I'm also on Instagram, Naomi underscore TEG. Just finished producing some fun content on my channel. We are Mentally United around mental wellness and doing a podcast there too. So if you haven't already, definitely check it out.
Absolutely. Please do check it out. And Jay, if we can find you anywhere, where can we find you?
I am not an Instagram person. I am more TikTok. I am under TikTok as Professor James 23. I do football content and crazy stuff as well. I do impressions myself, so I often do funny funny sort of videos and sort of everyone's cup of tea, really. I wind my wife up a lot as well. That's on there as well. But I was just going to say, as a bright sort of point to end as well, we are 6 points away from Manchester City.
And I think that's
If we can finish above them this season, so that's a bright sort of note.
We'll see if that does come true. I think I don't think Santa can quite fit that into his sleigh, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter, guys, at the Balls Out Podcast. You can follow me at Twitter at Nate Dales. And like I say, if you want to get involved in the channel, just give us a drop a DM, find us out, and absolutely, we'll have a conversation. But for now, thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you, Jonathan, Naomi, and Jay, and we shall see you all very soon.
Cool.